Part 1. The world is loud. Your mind, docenti, have two Beatty worlds you live in is louder than any world that came before it. Not louder in the sense of sound alone, but louder in pressure, in demands, in urgency. Every day begins with noise before your feet even touch the ground. Notifications arrive like commands. Headlines shout danger. Opinions demand allegiance. Metrics judge your worth. There is no silence unless you fight for it, and even then, the noise follows you inward. This constant stimulation creates a subtle belief that something is always wrong. If nothing is demanding your attention, your mind invents something that should be. Peace begins to feel suspicious. Stillness feels like neglect. Calm feels like laziness. And so you stay alert, tense, braced for impact, even when there is no impact coming. This is not because you are weak. It is because you are human, and you are immersed in an environment that profits from your agitation. The modern world does not reward inner stability. It rewards reaction. It rewards outrage, speed, comparison, and fear dressed up as productivity. When chaos becomes the water you swim in, you stop noticing how much it is costing you. Most people believe their anxiety is caused by events, by money, by relationships, by politics, by uncertainty. But if that were true, then everyone facing the same conditions would suffer equally. They do not. Some remain steady under immense pressure, while others collapse under minor disturbances. This tells us something uncomfortable, but important. The source of distress is not chaos itself, but our relationship to it. Long before algorithms learned how to hold attention hostage, the Stoics were studying this problem. They lived in times of plague, exile, slavery, war, and political betrayal. There was no illusion of safety in their world, no promise of stability. And yet they spoke obsessively about calm, clarity, and freedom. Not freedom from circumstances, but freedom within them. They understood something that feels almost radical today. You do not need the world to become quieter in order to become peaceful. You need your mind to become ordered. The modern mind is pulled outward in 1,000 directions at once. It tries to manage outcomes, control perceptions, predict disasters, and secure approval simultaneously. This creates a state of permanent cognitive overload. You are attempting to command what was never yours to command, and the cost of this mistake is exhaustion. Chaos feels overwhelming, not because it is too large, but because you are trying to hold all of it at once. Think about how often your mind leaves the present moment, jumps ahead into imagined futures, rehearsing problems that may never arrive. Or it retreats into the past, replaying moments that cannot be changed. Rarely does it stay where your body is. Rarely does it remain with what is actually happening. This mental restlessness creates the illusion that life is slipping out of control, even when nothing is currently wrong. Stoics would say this is the beginning of suffering, confusing what is happening with what you are telling yourself about what is happening. You do not experience reality directly. You experience your interpretation of it. This is why two people can face the same storm and walk away with entirely different inner worlds. One is shattered, the other is sharpened. The difference is not fate, it is judgment. The modern world trains you to react first and reflect later, if at all. Every outrage cycle is designed to bypass your reason and hook directly into your emotions. The faster you react, the more predictable you become. And predictability is control. When you are reactive, you are easy to steer. Stoicism begins by interrupting this process. It asks you to pause, to insert space between stimulus and response, to question the automatic narratives your mind produces. Not every thought deserves belief. Not every emotion deserves obedience. Not every external event deserves internal collapse. This does not mean becoming numb or detached from life. It means refusing to be enslaved by impressions that arrive uninvited. Most people are not disturbed by events, but by the meaning they assign to events. A comment becomes an insult. A delay becomes a disaster. Disagreement becomes a threat. These meanings are added by the mind, often unconsciously, and once added, they feel like facts. The Stoics trained themselves to see these interpretations as optional. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. Rain falls, wind howls, trees bend. One person curses the sky and demands the storm stop. Another adjusts their posture, tightens their cloak, and keeps walking. The storm does not care. But one person suffers far more than the other. The world does not adapt itself to your preferences. That is not cruelty. It is reality. Peace begins when you stop arguing with reality and start governing your response to it. This is why Stoicism resonates so deeply in times of chaos. It does not promise comfort. It promises clarity. It does not remove hardship. It removes unnecessary suffering layered on top of hardship. In a world obsessed with control, Stoicism teaches restraint. In a culture addicted to opinion, it teaches discernment. In an age of constant noise, it teaches inner order. Order is not the absence of chaos. It is the ability to remain intact within it. Consider the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. He ruled during war, famine, plague, and political treachery. His personal writings were not meant for publication. They were private reminders to himself, written in the margins of a life lived under extreme pressure. And yet again and again, he returned to the same theme. Focus on what is yours to govern. Release what is not. This was not philosophy as theory. It was philosophy as survival. Your life may not resemble an empire on the brink of collapse, but your nervous system does not know the difference between ancient threats and modern ones. It responds to perceived danger, not historical scale. A hostile email can trigger the same stress response as a physical threat. A loss of status can feel like a loss of safety. The body reacts first. The mind scrambles to justify it afterward. Stoicism trains the mind to reclaim leadership. Instead of being dragged by fear, anger, or desire, you learn to observe them, to ask whether they are useful, to decide whether to act on them or let them pass. This creates a sense of internal sovereignty. You may not rule the world, but you rule yourself. And that is enough. The modern promise is that if you optimize enough, consume enough, achieve enough, you will finally feel secure. The Stoic counterpromise is quieter and far more radical. Security comes from needing less control over what you cannot command. This is deeply unsettling at first. The ego wants guarantees. It wants certainty. It wants to lock the future into a predictable shape. Stoicism refuses this fantasy. It says, prepare your character, not your circumstances. When chaos arrives, and it always does, you will not rise to the level of your hopes. You will fall to the level of your training. Most people have never trained their minds. They react, they cope, they distract, but they do not train. Stoicism is a discipline, not a mood. It is practiced in small moments, daily frictions, quiet decisions that no one sees. Peace is not found by escaping the world, but by engaging it differently. This is why Stoicism does not ask you to withdraw. It asks you to participate without losing yourself, to act without attachment to outcome, to care without clinging, to stand firm without becoming rigid. The chaos outside will not slow down. If anything, it will accelerate. Technology will continue to compress time. Information will continue to multiply. Outrage will continue to be monetized. Waiting for the world to become calmer is a losing strategy. The Stoic path begins with a different question. How calm can you become, regardless of the world? This is not about suppressing emotion. It is about understanding it. It's not about control through force, but control through clarity. When you see clearly, much of what once disturbed you loses its power. Begin to notice how often you suffer in advance of events that never occur. How often you relive moments that no longer exist. How much energy you waste resisting what already is. Stoicism brings you back to the present, not as a slogan, but as a refuge. The present moment is the only place where action is possible. The past is instruction, the future is preparation. But peace lives here. As this series continues, we will explore the single Stoic principle that forms the backbone of all others, the rule that separates inner order from inner chaos. It is simple, almost offensively so. And yet, when practiced consistently, it changes how you experience everything. For now, let this settle. You do not need to fix the world to find peace within it. You need to stop letting the world decide who you are inside. This is where Stoicism begins. And this is where chaos starts to lose its grip. Have you ever felt like life is just a series of unfortunate events? One thing after another goes wrong, and you're just caught in the middle, feeling stressed, anxious, and completely powerless? What if I told you there's a simple, ancient rule that can change all of that? A rule so powerful that it can transform the way you see the world and give you an unshakable sense of peace, no matter what life throws at you. This isn't some modern self-help gimmick. It's a 2,000-year-old secret from the Stoic philosophers, and it's called the dichotomy of control. So, what is this life-changing rule? The dichotomy of control is incredibly simple. It states that in life, some things are within our control and some things are not. That's it. The Stoics, like the great philosopher Epictetus, believed that the root of all our suffering comes from confusing these two categories. We waste our energy trying to control what we can't, and we neglect what we actually can. Think about it. We can't control the weather, the traffic, what other people think of us, or whether our favorite sports team wins. We can't control the economy, a sudden illness, or the past. Yet, how much time do we spend worrying about these things? We get angry when someone cuts us off in traffic, anxious about a presentation tomorrow, and frustrated when plans get rained out. All of this is wasted energy. The real magic happens when we shift our focus. The Stoics taught that the only things truly within our control are our own thoughts, our judgments, our choices, and our actions. Our inner world. That's our domain. When you truly internalize this, everything changes. Instead of trying to control the external event, you focus on controlling your response to it. For example, you're stuck in a massive traffic jam and you're going to be late. The old you might get furious, honking the horn, cursing other drivers. This achieves nothing except raising your blood pressure. The Stoic you, applying the dichotomy of control, recognizes the traffic is outside your control. What is within your control? Your reaction. You can choose to use this time productively. Maybe you listen to an interesting podcast or an audiobook. Maybe you call a friend you haven't spoken to in a while. Or maybe you just practice mindful breathing and enjoy a moment of stillness. The situation is the same, but your experience of it is completely different. You've moved from a state of powerless frustration to one of calm, conscious choice. Let's apply this to another common source of stress. Other people. Can't control what others say, think, or do. Trying to force someone to like you or agree with you is a recipe for misery, but you can control how you behave. You can choose to be kind, honest, and respectful regardless of how they treat you. Their opinion of you is their business outside of your control. Your character, however, is entirely your business. Your self-worth comes from your own actions and virtues, not from external validation. Imagine someone insults you. The knee-jerk reaction is to get defensive or insult them back. But the Stoic approach is to pause and ask, is this in my control? The insult itself is not. It's just words coming from someone else. What is in your control is how you interpret those words. You can choose to see them as a reflection of the other person's own issues, not a true statement about your worth. You can choose not to let it disturb your inner peace. As the emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This principle isn't about being passive or emotionless. It's not about shrugging your shoulders and saying, I can't do anything. It's the exact opposite. It's about being incredibly proactive in the areas that matter. It's about channeling all your energy, all your focus, and all your effort into the things you can actually influence, your own choices and actions. For instance, if you're worried about losing your job, worrying itself is useless. That's focusing on an external outcome you can't fully control. Instead, you apply the dichotomy of control. You focus on what you can control, improving your skills, updating your resume, networking with people in your field, and doing the best possible work every single day. You take action on your controllables. This not only makes you more valuable and secure in your position, but also eliminates the anxiety because you know you are doing everything within your power. Whether you keep the job or not is the final outcome, but you can be at peace knowing you gave it your absolute best. So how do you start practicing this today? It begins with a simple mental exercise. Throughout your day, whenever you feel a negative emotion like anger, anxiety, or frustration, just pause and ask yourself, what part of this situation is within my control and what part is not? Let's say you're nervous about a first date. What's not in your control? Whether the other person finds you attractive, whether you have perfect chemistry, or whether they'll want a second date. What is in your control? Choosing a nice outfit that makes you feel confident, thinking of some interesting questions to ask. Being a good listener and being your authentic self. Focus all your energy on those things. By doing so, you're setting yourself up for the best possible outcome. And more importantly, you're freeing yourself from the anxiety of the unknown. You're not tying your sense of well-being to an outcome you can't command. This isn't a one-time fix. It's a lifelong practice, a mental muscle that you need to train every single day. There will be times you forget. You'll get angry in traffic. You'll worry about what your boss thinks. That's okay. Yeah, the key is to gently bring your focus back. Each time you consciously separate what you can control from what you can't, you get stronger. You reclaim your power. You stop being a victim of circumstance and become the calm, resilient, and effective director of your own life. This single rule, the dichotomy of control, is the foundation of Stoic philosophy and the key to unlocking a state of tranquility and inner strength. That the Stoics called apatheia, a state free from disturbing passions, it's the ultimate life hack, and it's been waiting for you for 2,000 years. Start practicing it today, and watch as your world begins to change. Thanks for watching. If this idea resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more insights into ancient wisdom for modern life. Let me know in the comments how you plan to apply the dichotomy of control in your own life. See you in the next video. At first, wanting to control everything feels like a sign of strength. It feels responsible, mature, even wise. You tell yourself that constant vigilance keeps disaster away, that worrying is just a form of preparation.
Ow.
You keep your mind busy because being still feels dangerous. You think, if I just loosen my grip for a second, something terrible might slip through. But there's a quiet contradiction hidden in this belief. The more you try to control what you can't control, the less control you actually have over yourself. What starts as simple caution slowly morphs into constant tension. What begins as planning turns into obsession. And what starts as care eventually becomes deep-seated fear. Your mind gets stretched thin, scattered across 1,000 imagined futures, and loses its ability to act decisively in the present moment. You're mentally everywhere except for the one place you're truly needed, right here, right now. This isn't power, it's just spreading yourself too thin. The ancient Stoics understood this well. They taught that real strength isn't measured by how much you try to manage, but by how wisely you choose what to focus on. To them, power wasn't about expanding your control outward over the world. It was about consolidating your strength inward, within yourself. When you try to control outcomes, you tie your own happiness and emotional stability to things that are completely outside your command. Every unexpected delay feels like a personal attack. Every setback feels like a final judgment on your worth. This illusion of control slowly chips away at your resilience. You become brittle. And a brittle mind can't bend under pressure. It just snaps. It panics when plans go wrong. It gets angry when reality doesn't cooperate. It sees randomness as an insult, and uncertainty as an injustice. Over time, this constant friction with the world leaves you feeling exhausted, all while you're telling yourself you're just being responsible. The Stoics saw this pattern clearly. They noticed that the people who demand certainty from life are the ones most distressed by uncertainty. The people who demand total control are the most disturbed by chaos. And the people who demand guarantees are the least equipped to adapt when those guarantees inevitably fail. Trying to control everything doesn't protect you from chaos. It just makes you fragile in its presence. And there's a heavy psychological price to pay for this fragility. When your mind believes it. Should asterisk be able to control outcomes, it starts to see every failure as a personal flaw. Setbacks are no longer just information. They become accusations. You don't just feel disappointment, you feel shame. This is why people obsessed with control often struggle the most with anxiety. Anxiety isn't just fear of what might happen. It's the fear of being unable to manage what happens. It's your mind protesting against the impossible responsibilities it has placed on itself. But the Stoics offered a different way. They taught that true strength comes from preparing your mind to meet any outcome with composure, not from trying to prevent every single undesirable event. You can't fortify the world against chaos, but you can fortify yourself against collapse. This is a subtle shift, but it's profound. Instead of asking, how do I make sure nothing goes wrong? The Stoic asks, how do I remain steady if something goes wrong? The first question creates tension. The second creates readiness. And readiness doesn't get rid of fear, but it keeps it in its proper place. It stops fear from becoming the dictator of your life. There's also an ethical side to this. When you try to control everything, you inevitably end up trying to control other people. You start managing their impressions of you, manipulating their reactions, and trying to engineer their approval. This corrodes relationships. People can sense when they are being handled instead of being respected. Stoicism draws a firm line here. Other people's thoughts, their choices, their emotions, those are not yours to command. Trying to control them is overstepping your role in the world. It just creates resentment on both sides. Theirs, because they feel constrained, and yours, because they naturally resist. Letting go of this false control doesn't mean you become indifferent to others. It actually makes your care for them cleaner and more genuine. You can offer guidance without being attached to the outcome. You can offer support without domination. You can offer love without possession. This isn't weakness. This is maturity. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote about this hidden weakness of control. He observed that people who are terrified of loss are already lost because they're enslaved by their own anticipation. They suffer long before any actual suffering is required. They live as if disaster has already struck. In this state, the mind never gets a chance to rest. It's always bracing for impact, always rehearsing worst-case scenarios, always defending against blows that exist only in the imagination. This constant readiness doesn't make you sharper. It just dulls your senses. When a real difficulty finally arrives, you're already depleted. Stoicism aims to preserve your energy for when it actually matters. By releasing the need to control outcomes, you reclaim your ability to respond fully when action is truly needed. You stop wasting your strength fighting imaginary battles and reserve it for the real ones. This doesn't mean you should abandon ambition or stop putting in effort. The Stoics weren't passive. They were people of action, often in very high-stakes situations. But they acted without clinging to the results. They judged themselves by the quality of their actions, not by the applause or the consequences that followed. This creates a powerful internal anchor. When your sense of worth is tied to your effort, your integrity, and your intentions, things you actually control, you become much harder to destabilize. Praise doesn't inflate your ego. Criticism doesn't crush you. Failure doesn't define you. Success doesn't intoxicate you. You remain centered. Contrast this with our modern obsession with optimizing everything. Every metric becomes a verdict on our worth. Every outcome becomes our identity. Every setback feels like an existential threat. In a system like that, there's no room for randomness, no mercy for bad luck, and no dignity in trying your best if you don't get the reward. Stoicism reintroduces that dignity. It says, you can act well and still lose. You can fail honorably. You can do everything right and still not get the outcome you hoped for. This doesn't make you powerless. It makes you human. The desperate attempt to control everything denies this fundamental truth. It demands perfection from an imperfect world. And when that demand isn't met, frustration is the first to arrive. Then comes anger, then bitterness. Over time, that bitterness can poison your entire worldview. The Stoic alternative is to pair acceptance with action. You accept the limits of your control, but you don't surrender your ability to act. You focus on what you can influence, and you learn to release what you can't. This balance isn't easy or intuitive. It's a skill that must be practiced. Through that practice, you discover something unexpected. Letting go of false control doesn't make you weaker. It makes you calmer, clearer, and far more resilient. You recover faster from setbacks. You adapt sooner to change. You think more accurately under pressure. You finally stop mistaking tension for strength. Real strength in the Stoic sense is composure under pressure. It's the ability to stay true to your values even when circumstances are against you. It is the capacity to choose your response instead of being dragged along by your reactions. Chaos will test you. It always does. The real question isn't whether you can control the chaos. You can't. The question is whether you will let the chaos control you. The more you tighten your grip on things that were never yours to hold, the more power you hand over to the unpredictable forces of the world. And the more you release what was never yours, the more authority you regain over yourself. This is the great paradox at the heart of Stoicism. By surrendering false control, you gain real control. As we move forward, we'll explore how this principle can reshape our relationship with anxiety, anger, and ambition, not by suppressing them, but by putting them in their proper place. You'll see how much lighter life becomes when you stop spending all your energy resisting reality. For now, just start by noticing. Notice where your mind is gripping too tightly. Notice where you are demanding guarantees from life. And notice where you are carrying responsibilities that don't actually belong to you. That awareness right there is the beginning of freedom. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more insights on living a stronger, more resilient life. See you in the next video. Have you ever felt like the world is spinning out of control? It's like you're just a passenger on a chaotic ride you've never signed up for. We've all been there. Political turmoil, economic uncertainty, personal struggles can feel overwhelming, like we're constantly being tossed around by waves of chaos. But what if I told you there's a timeless philosophy, an ancient operating system for the human mind that can help you find calm and strength, no matter what's happening around you? This isn't some new age trend. It's a philosophy forged in the fires of ancient Rome, practiced by emperors and slaves alike. It's called Stoicism. And one of its greatest champions was a man who knew a thing or two about chaos, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Imagine this. You are the most powerful man in the known world. You're leading armies against invading tribes, dealing with a deadly plague that's sweeping your empire, and navigating treacherous political backstabbing. Sounds stressful, right? That was the daily reality for Marcus Aurelius. Yet amidst all this turmoil, he wrote a series of private notes to himself, a personal journal that would become one of the most influential philosophical books of all time, Meditations. So how did he do it? How did he maintain his composure and rule with wisdom while the world around him seemed to be crumbling? The answer lies at the very heart of Stoicism. The understanding that we must differentiate between what we can control and what we cannot. This is the cornerstone, the fundamental principle. The Stoics, including Marcus Aurelius, believed that most of our anxiety, frustration, suffering comes from trying to control things that are ultimately outside of our power. Think about it. We can't control the weather. We can't control the economy. We can't control what other people think or do. We can't even fully control our own health or reputation. Worrying about these things is like trying to stop the tide with a bucket. It's exhausting and utterly futile. What then can we control? Stoics were very clear on this. We can control our own thoughts, our judgments, our responses, and our actions. Our inner world. That's it. It's our domain. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This isn't about being passive or apathetic. It's about strategically focusing your energy where it actually makes a difference. Let's break this down with a modern example. You're stuck in a massive traffic jam. You're going to be late for an important meeting. The old you might start honking the horn, swearing at other drivers, getting more and more stressed. Your blood pressure rises, your mood sours. Does any of this make the traffic move faster? Of course not. You're trying to control the uncontrollable. A Stoic approach would look different. You'd first acknowledge the situation. Okay, I'm in a traffic jam. I cannot control this. You accept the external reality. Then, you turn your focus inward, to what you can control. You can control your reaction. Instead of anger, you can choose patience. You can use the time productively. Maybe you call ahead to let them know you'll be late. Maybe you listen to an audiobook or a podcast you've been meaning to catch up on. Maybe you just practice deep breathing and enjoy a moment of unexpected stillness. You see the shift? The external event, the traffic jam, is the same, but your internal experience is completely different. You've transformed a moment of stress and chaos into an opportunity for calm and reason. You've maintained your internal order. This is what Marcus Aurelius was practicing on a grand scale. While barbarian hordes were at the gates, he was focused on his duties, his judgments, his character. He couldn't stop the invasion by wishing it away, but he could control how he responded to it with courage, discipline, and a commitment to the common good. Another key Stoic idea that helps build this inner fortress is the concept of amor fati, which is Latin for love of fate. This doesn't mean you have to be happy when bad things happen. It means accepting everything that happens, both good and bad, as necessary and part of the grander tapestry of life. It's about not just tolerating reality, but embracing it. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who was heavily influenced by the Stoics, put it this way: "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. Not merely bear what is necessary, still less conceal it, but love it." When you practice amor fati, you stop fighting with reality. A project at work fails. Instead of lamenting, you ask, "What can I learn from this? How can this make me better?" A relationship ends. Instead of despair, you can see it as a necessary part of your journey, a lesson that will shape who you become. You treat every obstacle not as a roadblock, but as a new path. This is a powerful mental shift. The Stoic sees obstacles as fuel. The things that stand in our way become the way forward. This brings us to another vital tool from the Stoic toolkit perspective. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of the vastness of time and space. He would zoom out and contemplate his own life, his own problems, against the backdrop of eternity and the entire cosmos. He wrote, "Think of the substance of all things, of which you have a very small share, and of the time of all things, of which a short and fleeting moment has been assigned to you, and of fate, in which you are what a tiny part." Doing this isn't meant to make you feel insignificant. It's meant to give you perspective. That embarrassing thing you said at a party last week, that stressful work deadline, in the grand scheme of things, how much does it truly matter? Often our anxieties and fears are magnified because our focus is too narrow. By zooming out, we can shrink our problems down to their actual size, making them much more manageable. It allows us to see the bigger picture and not get bogged down by the trivialities that so often cause us distress. So, how can we start applying these principles in our own lives right now? It starts with small, conscious choices. First, practice the dichotomy of control every single day. When you feel yourself getting anxious or angry, pause and ask, "Is the thing I'm worried about within my control or outside of it?" If it's outside your control, like what someone thinks of you, practice letting it go. Acknowledge you can't change it. It is within your control, like your own effort on a project, then focus all your energy there. Second, start a journaling practice, just like Marcus Aurelius. You don't have to write a philosophical masterpiece. Just take a few minutes each day to write down your thoughts. Reflect on your day. What challenges did you face? How did you react? Could you have responded with more virtue, more reason? Journaling is like having a conversation with yourself. It's a training ground for your mind, helping you to process events and reinforce Stoic principles. Third, practice negative visualization. This might sound pessimistic, but it's actually a powerful tool for building gratitude and resilience. Take a moment to imagine that you've lost the things you cherish: your job, your home, your loved ones. Don't dwell on it to the point of despair, but just briefly contemplate their absence. The purpose is to then return to the present moment with a renewed and profound appreciation for everything you have. It also prepares you mentally for potential loss, making you less fragile and more resilient when adversity does strike. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca said, "He suffers more than necessary, who suffers before it is necessary." Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions or becoming a robot. It's about not being a slave to them. It's about cultivating an inner citadel, a fortress of the mind that can withstand any storm the external world throws at you. It's about finding tranquility, not by changing the world, but by mastering yourself. In a world that is noisier and more chaotic than ever, the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics is more relevant than ever before. It's a practical, actionable philosophy for navigating the challenges of modern life with grace, resilience, and a deep sense of inner peace. It teaches us that true power isn't about controlling the world, it's about controlling ourselves. So, the next time you feel the chaos creeping in, remember the Roman emperor riding by candlelight. Remember the simple but profound question: what is up to me and what is not? Focus on your thoughts, your actions, your character. Build your inner order, and you'll find you can handle any external chaos. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this useful, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content on philosophy for modern life. Let me know in the comments which Stoic idea resonates with you the most. See you in the next video. Does anxiety feel like a constant warning system for you? A little signal that something needs your attention? It's almost like a form of intelligence trying to protect you from harm. And in some ways that's true. Problem starts when anxiety stops being an informant and starts being your commander. For most of us, anxiety isn't a gentle alert, it's a constant humming pressure in the background that never quite turns off. It follows you to bed, colors neutral moments with a sense of dread, and whispers that something is wrong, even when everything seems fine. From a Stoic perspective, this isn't evidence of actual danger. It's evidence of confusion about what you can and cannot control. Anxiety flares up when our minds take responsibility for things we simply can't guarantee. It's the emotional price we pay for trying to manage the uncontrollable. Your mind screams, "I have to stop this from going badly," even when preventing it is completely out of your hands. Your body then reacts as if failure would be a catastrophe. This is why anxiety feels so urgent, but rarely leads to anything productive. The ancient Stoics didn't see anxiety as a disorder. They analyzed it. They saw it as a sign that the mind has crossed a boundary, that it's trying to rule over territory that doesn't belong to it. Think about how anxiety speaks in absolutes. What if everything falls apart? What if I can't handle it? What if this ruins my entire life? These aren't predictions. They're demands for certainty in a world that is fundamentally uncertain. Anxiety is your mind demanding guarantees it can never have. So what did the Stoics do? They simply stopped making the demand. They asked a different question. What is actually required of me right now? Not in some imagined catastrophic future. Not in the worst-case scenario. Right here, in this present moment. This question instantly collapses anxiety's playground. It yanks the mind back from speculative disaster and grounds it in practical action. You see, anxiety thrives in the future. Responsibility lives in the present. Most of our anxiety is just future-oriented suffering. You rehearse pain ahead of time. You simulate loss. You experience failure long before it ever happens. And then, if that future finally arrives, you're already exhausted. You end up suffering twice, often for events that never even come to pass. The Stoics saw this as a tragic misuse of our imagination. Imagination is an incredibly powerful tool. It helps us plan, prepare, and foresee challenges. But when it's left to run wild, it becomes a factory for fear. It creates vivid, terrifying scenarios without ever stopping to ask if they're likely useful or even within our control. Stoicism doesn't tell you to stop imagining. It asks you to imagine accurately. What does accurate imagination look like? It respects limits. It says this bad outcome is possible, but it's not certain. This event would be difficult, but I would survive it. This loss would hurt deeply, but it wouldn't erase my ability to respond with dignity and strength. Anxiety, on the other hand, blurs all these distinctions. It treats every possibility as an inevitability and every discomfort as complete annihilation. The Stoic response isn't to tell yourself, "Don't worry, everything will be okay." That's just empty reassurance. The response is recalibration. Instead, the Stoic says, "I will handle whatever happens with reason and virtue." This shift removes the need for certainty. You don't need to know how things will turn out if you trust your own ability to meet the moment, whatever it brings. This isn't blind optimism. It's confidence in your character. When you know that your values, your judgment, and your effort are the things you truly control, you no longer need the future to bend to your will. You become outcome independent. This doesn't make anxiety vanish overnight. Anxiety is a habit, one that's been rehearsed thousands of times. But this new perspective changes how you relate to it. Instead of obeying anxiety, you start observing it. You notice the sensations in your body, the tight chest, the restless energy without automatically interpreting them as signs of danger. You notice the anxious thoughts without giving them any authority. You simply ask, is this mine to control? More often than not, the answer is no. You can't control whether other people approve of you. You can't control whether your plans unfold perfectly. You can't control when or how uncertainty will resolve itself. Anxiety rushes in the moment you forget this fundamental truth. The Stoics trained themselves to accept uncertainty not as a temporary problem to be solved, but as a permanent condition of life. This isn't pessimistic resignation. It's empowering realism. Life offers no guarantees. Demanding them is a recipe for suffering. There's a quiet arrogance hidden inside anxiety, this belief that you should be able to foresee and prevent every single negative outcome. The Stoics dismantled this belief gently, but firmly. They reminded themselves that they are just one part of a vast, complex system, not its all-powerful architects. This perspective is humbling and incredibly relieving. When you stop seeing yourself as the sole guardian of the future, the pressure just eases. You still act responsibly. You still prepare. But you no longer punish yourself for not being all-knowing. It's also important to see how anxiety often disguises itself as care. You worry because you care. You stress because you're invested. But true care doesn't require panic. Genuine concern doesn't require obsession. True care is calm. It focuses on what can be done, not on all the things that might go wrong. So when anxiety arises, the Stoic response is to narrow your focus. What is the very next right action? Not the entire 5-year plan, not the entire future. It's just the next small step that aligns with your values. This incremental approach starves anxiety of its fuel. Anxiety feeds on overwhelming magnitude. When you break life down into manageable present-moment actions, it loses its power. There's a moral dimension to this as well. When anxiety dominates your inner world, it pulls your attention away from others. You become preoccupied with self-preservation. Your capacity for generosity, patience, and empathy shrinks. The Stoics valued tranquility, not just for personal comfort, but for its usefulness. A calm mind is more capable of serving others, making fair decisions, and acting with justice. An anxious mind is consumed with itself. This is why Stoicism treats inner calm as a responsibility, not a luxury. Your inner state directly affects how you treat the people around you. Governing your anxiety is a core part of governing your character. The Stoics never expected anxiety to disappear completely. They expected it to lose its authority. They trained themselves to feel it without following it. And that distinction is everything. You can feel fear and still act with courage. You can feel uncertainty and still choose wisely. You can feel anxious and still remain true to your values. Anxiety only becomes destructive when you mistake its voice for a command. As you go about your day, just start to notice the tone of your own anxious thoughts. Are they informing you, or are they ordering you around? Are they pointing you toward a productive action, or are they demanding an impossible certainty? You don't have to silence your anxiety. You just have to stop obeying it. Thanks so much for watching. If this resonated with you, please consider liking the video and subscribing for more content on applying ancient wisdom to modern life. I'll see you in the next one. Do you think Stoicism makes people cold, distant, and emotionless? That's one of the biggest myths out there. It's a misunderstanding that comes from seeing people who suppress their feelings, not people who truly understand them. Stoicism doesn't ask you to feel less. It asks you to feel more clearly. See, the danger isn't emotion itself. The real danger is being confused about what our emotions are for. Emotions are information. They're signals about our values, our expectations, and how we see the world. But here's the key. Information is not an instruction manual. Just because you feel something intensely doesn't mean you have to act on it right away, or even at all. Practicing Stoicism every day means creating a small space, a pause, between a feeling and your reaction. And in that pause, that's where you find your freedom. Think about work. This pause changes everything. So much of our professional stress comes from mixing up our effort with the outcome. We work incredibly hard and expect a specific reward, a promotion, some recognition, a sense of security. And when that reward doesn't show up, we get resentful. We feel like we've been cheated, even if no one ever made us a promise. The Stoic approach is different. You commit to doing excellent work simply because excellence is within your control. You let go of the guarantee of a reward because the reward itself isn't in your control. This doesn't make you apathetic or lazy. It makes you resilient. When you do get recognized, you can accept it with gratitude, but you don't become dependent on it. And when you don't get recognized, you keep acting with integrity anyway. Your motivation comes from living by your own values, not from what other people think. This is incredibly hard in a culture that's constantly ranking and comparing us. But it's also liberating. Stop performing for an audience and start practicing for yourself. Now let's talk about relationships, where Stoicism is misunderstood even more. People worry that accepting how others behave means letting them walk all over you. That's not it at all. Stoicism doesn't tell you to get rid of your boundaries. It tells you to put them in the right place. You can't control how other people act, but you can control what you accept, what you communicate, and how you choose to respond. When someone disappoints you, the The Stoic response isn't to bottle up the hurt. It's to get crystal clear about your expectations. So much pain in relationships comes from expecting people to be someone they're not. We create this perfect image in our heads, pin all our hopes on it, and then feel betrayed when reality doesn't match up. Stoicism teaches us to replace that projection with observation. You learn to see people as they truly are, not as you wish they were. From there, you can choose how close you want to be. You offer what you can, freely, without demanding something in return. This leads to cleaner, more honest relationships. Stoic love isn't about possession. It's about appreciation. You value people while respecting their freedom. You care deeply, but you don't try to own them. This doesn't make love weaker. It makes it far less fragile. Failure is another area where Stoicism can completely reshape your experience. Our culture often treats failure as an identity. You didn't just fail at something. You are a failure. I think this is psychologically brutal. It makes trying new things terrifying and slows down our growth. Stoicism pulls your actions apart from your identity. You can fail at a task without failing as a person. You can make a mistake without becoming a mistake. When you fail, the Stoic response isn't to attack yourself. It's to analyze. What part was in my control? What wasn't? What can I do differently next time? This perspective turns failure into a powerful learning tool instead of something to drown in. Even ambition looks different through a Stoic lens. Stoicism isn't against ambition. It's against the kind of ambition that needs the world to bend to your will just for you to feel okay. Ambition that's rooted in your values is powerful and sustainable. Ambition that's rooted in your ego is volatile and fragile. When your ambition is value-driven, the effort itself becomes meaningful, no matter the outcome. But when it's ego-driven, every little obstacle feels like a personal humiliation. Stoicism refines your ambition by tying it to your character. Chase goals not to prove you're worthy, but to express your principles. This takes away the desperation and boosts your consistency. Daily practice also means deliberately stepping into discomfort. The Stoics believe that choosing to face small hardships strengthens your perspective. By occasionally picking discomfort, whether it's physical, emotional, or social, become less afraid of the discomfort you don't choose. You remind yourself that you're capable of enduring much more than you think. This isn't about punishing yourself, it's training. Simple acts like taking a cold shower, fasting for a short period, or just sitting in silence were used to recalibrate desire. When you learn that you don't need constant comfort to be okay, you stop being ruled by the fear of losing it. Modern life tries to shield us from all discomfort, but ironically, this just makes us more anxious about it. Stoicism flips that around. It makes you less fragile by reminding you of your own inner strength. But daily Stoic practice isn't about grand, dramatic gestures. It's about small, consistent mental habits. It's about noticing when your mind is jumping to the worst-case scenario. It's about correcting exaggerated judgments as they pop up. It's about bringing your attention back to what you can actually do, right here, right now. It's about letting go of the mental stories that just fuel anger and anxiety. These small practices add up. Over time, they change the way you move through the world. You become calmer, but not numb. You become more caring, but not consumed by others' problems. This balance is absolutely essential. Stoicism without warmth can become cold and rigid. But warmth without the clarity of Stoicism can become chaotic and volatile. The goal is to integrate the two, to have reason guiding your emotions, not erasing them. As we get closer to the end of this series, we're going to tackle one final myth, that being calm means being passive. You'll see why the Stoics were some of the most active and engaged people in history, and how true calm is actually the fuel for decisive action. But for now, I want you to reflect on your own daily life. Where are you demanding a specific outcome instead of just committing to the effort? Where are you expecting people to live up to unspoken rules you've made up for them? Where are you confusing a strong feeling with an absolute command to act? The path to clarity starts right there. Thanks for watching. There is a modern assumption that calmness is a form of withdrawal. If you are not visibly outraged, anxious, or emotionally intense, you must not care. Noise has become mistaken for conviction. Reactivity has been confused with strength. The Stoics rejected this confusion completely. To them, calm was not the absence of action. It was the foundation of effective action. A turbulent mind reacts. A calm mind chooses. This distinction matters. especially in moments that demand courage. When pressure rises, most people become louder, faster, and less precise. Their words sharpen, their judgments narrow. They mistake urgency for importance and intensity for truth. Stoicism moves in the opposite direction. When difficulty increases, the Stoic slows internally, not externally. Action may still be swift, but inwardly. Attention narrows, motion is contained, reason remains available. This is why Stoics were often leaders, commanders, and decision-makers. Not because they were emotionless, but because they could act without being overwhelmed by emotion. Calm is what allows you to see clearly when others cannot. Consider conflict. Most conflicts escalate not because of the issue itself, but because of how it is handled. Ego rushes in. Defensiveness takes over. Each side reacts to tone, rather than content. A calm person does not absorb the emotional charge. They respond to the substance. This does not mean tolerating disrespect. It means addressing it without surrendering composure. There is quiet authority in this. People sense when you are not easily provoked. They sense when your reactions are deliberate rather than impulsive. This presence is stabilizing. It changes the dynamic of interaction. Calm also sharpens courage. Fear does not disappear in dangerous situations. But when fear is contained, it informs rather than paralyzes. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to let fear dictate behavior. Stoic calm allows fear to exist without granting it command. This is why Stoicism was attractive to warriors as much as to philosophers. It prepared the mind to act under pressure, to face uncertainty without panic, to endure pain without collapse. Calm is not retreat. It is readiness, not in modern life. This readiness shows up in quieter ways. In the ability to speak thoughtfully when emotions run high. In the capacity to make long-term decisions when others chase short-term relief. In the discipline to continue acting according to values when results are delayed or invisible. A calm person is harder to manipulate. Outrage cycles lose their grip. Manufactured urgency fails to hijack attention. Emotional contagion does not spread as easily. This is not apathy. It is discernment. The Stoics were deeply engaged with the world. They participated in politics, commerce, family life, and public service. What they refused to do was surrender their inner state to forces they could not govern. This refusal is radical. It means you can care deeply without burning out. It means you can fight for what matters without becoming consumed by hatred. It means you can stand firm without becoming rigid. Calm preserves energy. Reactivity drains it. This is why calm people often appear more effective over time. They do not exhaust themselves in every skirmish. They choose their battles. They conserve strength for what truly matters. The Stoics believed that life is a series of tests, not of comfort, but of character. Each situation asks the same question: will you respond according to impulse or according to principle? Calm is what allows principle to speak. There is also a spiritual dimension to this calm, even though Stoicism is not a religion. It recognizes that much of human suffering comes from resisting the nature of reality. Things change. People die. Plans fail. Empires fall. Fighting these truths produces anguish. Accepting them produces steadiness. This acceptance does not remove grief. It prevents despair. Grief is love responding to loss. Despair is love entangled with resistance to reality. The Stoic allows grief but resists despair. This distinction is subtle and deeply human. As we move into the final part, we will gather everything together: control, anxiety, daily practice, calm action, and bring it to a close. Not with a conclusion, but with an invitation. For now, consider this. If calm were weakness, chaos would not work so hard to steal it from you. Here's a hard truth the Stoics accepted without any illusions. Chaos never ends. There's no magical finish line in life where everything suddenly becomes easy, where problems apologize and disappear, and the world finally organizes itself enough to grant you permanent peace. If you're waiting for that moment to arrive, I'm sorry to say, you'll be waiting forever. The Stoics looked at this reality and chose a different path entirely. They decided that if chaos is a given, then our own inner steadiness isn't something we can just hope for. It's something we must actively build. This isn't about finding a good mood or a temporary escape. It's about cultivating a fundamental way of being. Think of the eye of a hurricane. All around it, there's pure violence. Winds are tearing buildings apart. Waves are crashing with terrifying force, and the conditions are completely unpredictable. But right there, at the very center, there is an unshakable stillness. This calm doesn't exist because the storm has stopped. It exists because its stillness isn't dependent on what the storm is doing. That is what Stoicism offers. It's not an escape from life, but a kind of insulation within it. Becoming the eye of the storm doesn't mean you drop your responsibilities and retreat from the world. Quite the opposite. It means you can carry your responsibilities without being crushed by their weight. It's about standing in the middle of constant motion and remaining internally unmoved enough to think clearly and choose wisely. Now, this state isn't something you achieve once and then possess forever like a trophy. It's a practice. It's something you have to return to day after day. Something you have to rebuild after you lose it. And you will lose it. There will be days when your emotions completely overwhelm your reason. There will be moments when anger moves faster than your judgment. There will be weeks or months when anxiety seems to take over again. This isn't a sign of failure. It's just your training showing you where more work is needed. In this way, Stoicism is incredibly forgiving. It doesn't demand perfection from you. All it asks for is honesty. Every time you feel that inner disturbance, that sense of being knocked off balance, it's an invitation to ask yourself a couple of key questions. What am I trying to control right now that is ultimately outside of my control? Where have I handed my inner peace over to something external, something outside of myself? These questions are your lifeline. They bring you back to your center. And make no mistake, the eye of the storm is not a passive state of just watching things happen. From this calm, centered place, your actions become cleaner, more effective. Your words become more measured and intentional. Your decisions become grounded in reason, not fear. You finally stop acting out of panic and start acting from your core principles. This is why, at first, Stoic calm can feel a little heavy. It removes the familiar adrenaline rush of being reactive. It replaces that chemical buzz with something far more powerful: responsibility. You no longer get to blame the chaos for how you feel inside. You become accountable for your own judgments, your own interpretations of events. This accountability is uncomfortable, I won't lie, but it is also incredibly empowering. The moment you truly accept that your inner peace depends on your interpretation of events, not on the events themselves, you regain a profound sense of agency. You are no longer waiting for someone or something to give you permission to be okay. You are no longer a hostage to perfect timing, to getting someone's approval, or to achieving a specific outcome. You still care, of course. You still try your best. You still put yourself out there and risk disappointment. But the difference is that disappointment no longer gets to define you. The Stoics understood that life is like a role we are assigned in a play, a role we didn't get to choose. You don't get to write the script. Your only job is to perform your part well, with dignity and integrity. Some roles are easier than others, some are much, much heavier, but none of them are permanent. Your task isn't to demand a different, easier role. Your task is to play the one you have with excellence. This simple shift in perspective changes everything. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you start asking, "What is required of me in this moment?" Instead of desperately asking, "How do I make this stop?" you ask, "How do I stay true to my values while this continues?" These questions don't magically eliminate pain. What they eliminate is the confusion that makes pain unbearable. It's the confusion, the feeling of being lost, that breaks us. Clarity, on the other hand, makes even the most difficult situations survivable. The eye of the storm is built from small, repeated acts of mental discipline. It's choosing a thoughtful response over a knee-jerk reaction. It's focusing on your effort rather than being obsessed with the outcome. It's choosing your integrity over what feels comfortable in the moment. These small choices accumulate quietly, almost without you noticing, until one day you look back and realize that the very things that once would have completely overwhelmed you now just pass through you. This isn't because you've become numb or detached. It's because you've become grounded. You've built your foundation on something solid. You stop needing the world to be fair in order to act fairly yourself. You stop needing to have all the answers and absolute certainty in order to move forward. You stop needing other people's approval in order to stand firmly by your own values. This is what freedom means in the Stoic sense. It's not freedom from difficult circumstances. It's freedom from your own inner compulsions. You become harder to knock off balance because your stability is no longer built on external conditions. It's built on your character. And character is something you forge yourself. The storm will always rage. The news headlines will always be alarming. Your best laid plans will fall apart. People will disappoint you. Your body will change and age. Time will take what it always takes from everyone. But if you have trained your mind, if you have cultivated that inner citadel, none of this will take you with it. You will feel loss, but you won't lose yourself. You will face immense pressure, but you won't collapse inward. You will act decisively and with purpose, without ever surrendering your inner peace. This isn't about dominating life or bending reality to your will. It's about cooperating with reality as it is. The best part is, this strength, this peace, is available to anyone who is willing to do the work. Not tomorrow, not when things finally calm down. Now, in this very moment. Every single moment of your life offers you the same fundamental choice. Will you be carried away by the storm? Or will you become its calm, unshakable center? Stoicism doesn't promise that your life will get easier. It promises that you will become stronger in the only way that truly matters. Quiet, clear, unshaken. Thank you for watching.